Okay, guys, thanks for joining us tonight on the second part of Builders Workshop with this one with the Myles Lamoree. Is it Lamoree or Lamoree? Am I saying it wrong?
Lamoree.
Lamoree, okay.
Lamoree. Yeah.
So I'm just going to review quick about what we went over last week a little bit with Eric, the Eric Salazar. We talked about who should, what agents or what new builders should be looking to build. How do they know when they're ready? Where they can find some quality recruits, and the importance of having uplines involved, and even sharing some tips to avoid pitfalls. And today we're going to move on with a little bit more in detail on the recruiting aspect. And the reason that we're spending just more than 1 hour on this part of it is because it's probably the most important part of it, or one of them, hiring the right people. So Myles, you've been with, from what I understand, you've been with One Life and Legacy Life for quite some time. Let's start off by talking about who you are for the agents that don't know you and haven't met you yet, and where you came from and what your journey in the insurance industry looked like.
Absolutely, Rob. And I want to thank both you, Janet, Rob Boyd, for having me on a call like this. I appreciate to have as much time as I can with all of you. I've been in the insurance business for 12 years. I started with another IMO, actually in the contracting department. And my focus was, I got bored just sending out contracts all day. So I started calling agents to help them on the front end to get their requirements in. And nobody else wanted to do that. Nobody wanted to call agents. It opened up the whole commissions and carriers and all the questions contracting people didn't like. And after that, I started talking to people in our company in new business. And I started talking to our leads department. And I really got a game for the business in that first year and a half of being in the contracting team, of kind of the back end of what an IMO looks like from that end. I then decided to get my insurance license and start with Mike Basaglio on what was Unique Riders and is formerly known as One Life in Heartland on the sales end. So I got my license, I came over, I joined up with people like Eric Salazar and Mike Basaglio, and I've been focused on final expense, mortgage protection, the life side for the last 10 years. And the last 7 years, I've been focused on recruiting. So over the last 7 to 8 years, I started recruiting. I can tell you at the beginning, recruiting to me wasn't natural. It wasn't something, I always was competitive, so I always wanted to win at things. And I thought at the beginning it was just being better than the previous place, right? Like, you have a certain commission percent, I can beat it. Or you have a certain lead program, I can be cheaper, right? And I didn't really learn the real value in recruiting until about a year of doing that. And after that point, I've now worked with Heartland, and I would say I've brought about tens of millions of production to the company, and upwards of over 100 to 200 agents last year alone. At this point, my everyday process is recruiting and working with the groups I recruit or agents I recruit to understand our model, our CRMs, our lead program, and what carriers we represent, right? And it's fun with a group like Retirement Income Life and Rob and Janet and everyone who's a part of this to partner with somebody that already has so much training and so much they do for their agents. That makes it so much easier for everybody to succeed at the highest level.
Yeah, you know what? That's something that over the years we've really tried to do is make it so much easier to succeed, because you know how it is coming in. Somebody, I mean, the deck is stacked against them, especially if they partner with the wrong organization. And having somebody that's going to be there to hold their hand for a little bit and guide them is certainly something that I mean, I would have loved to have that, quite honestly. I really would have. So there are many forms of recruiting, lots of different avenues that a new builder can take. I personally have done it where I post just social media posts on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. And then I've done pay-per-click ads. What would your suggestion be for a new builder, um, where they should maybe start? And what should the ads include? What would that ad look like in your world?
Absolutely. Obviously, it's changed over the years, and I've tried every method out there. So I have a lot of great advice of what works and what doesn't. But let me relate that back to something that all of you on the call may find as a good analogy. Asking what methods are the best avenues to recruit from is kind of like asking what lead programs are the best to write business from, right? What lead programs are the most effective? Honestly, all of them work, right? Same with recruiting. You're going to have some that target certain people. You're going to have some that respond more than others. But really, being successful at recruiting, there's not one program that's going to plug in people who have the same energy you have, the same passion to help people in life insurance, and are go-getters, right? So it is kind of just trial and error, right? And talking to people. I have other things I'm looking for when I'm talking to somebody on the phone, and I try to use my time as best as possible. If they don't have their insurance license, one thing I learned out the get-go that I wish that somebody told me 9 years ago is if I'm talking to somebody unlicensed, two things I look for if you guys want to write this down, specifically to unlicensed, right? Because they haven't invested in the opportunity yet. They haven't invested when it comes to paying for their license in the classes, any lead costs or anything that's going to, help them be a better business owner. So the number one thing I say is you don't have to come from sales previously. It can help, it can hurt you, but you have to be an outgoing person who likes talking with people in some degree or fashion, right? I don't like to use the words introvert or extrovert. I feel like everybody's somewhat of in between there. But if you're somebody who just shies away from people and doesn't like to talk, I would save the money on the license. The second thing that I wish people would have told me is you don't have to have ever been your own boss before, but when you get your insurance license, you will be your own boss. The positives of that is you can make so much money out the gate. It doesn't care if you've been in the industry 20 years. You can make more than that guy if you have bigger drive out the gate, right? So you can make a full-time income at the beginning. But the negative to that is some people do need that clock in, clock out mentality, somebody telling them every step of the way what to do. And that's okay, but that's not who we're looking for essentially with unlicensed folks. I've had conversations about this with people in my own warm market or family, and I wouldn't recommend something to them to go quit their job and jump to this if they don't fit those two traits. So that's kind of my conversation with unlicensed people. It's kind of different than the norm. What you'll find in this industry is so many advertisements are out there right now talking about make 100,000 plus a year, be your own boss. And they make it sound like you don't even need to go anywhere. Just sit on your couch at home and kind of like go on carrier trips and all these accolades. That all can be true, but they're kind of overly selling it, overly hyping it. So I don't mind having real conversations with folks, not talking them out of it, but if they're the right fit, I'll go through the monetary gain. I'll go through the freedom. I'll go through, all the positives, but I want to make sure they're the right fit before I overly sell them something. One thing I'll bring up on that point, Rob, is a lot of multi-level marketing groups, the blind's leading the blind, right? And the only reason they know to recruit is when you come on board, it's kind of part of the setup of you're supposed to write business, you're supposed to recruit, and that's how you increase your contract level, and that's what you're doing. So some of these folks have been in the business less than a month, sometimes less than 3, and they don't even know what they're recruiting to. So what that brings is a lot of people spending money to get their license, spending money on leads to try it. And those organizations, and this is factual information, I tell everybody this, me and Boyd have talked about this a lot, and Lester and you on private calls have talked about this. It brings a lot of people to something and a 98% failure rate. So I'm not about that. I wish those people would have saved their money on getting their insurance license if they're not the right fit. And that's why what we have here at Heartland and with Retirement Income Life is so much more powerful, right? So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? You mentioned something that, I didn't think to talk about on either one of the calls so far, and that is new agents. More experienced builders, I guess, tend to shy away from the unlicensed individual that has an interest in becoming an insurance agent. And listen, it's simply because it's a little bit more work. Okay, it's a little bit more effort, having to stay on top of them. How do you feel, and do you think that that is the individual that should be preferred by a new builder, or do you think that they should focus on experienced agents, or either one of them? What's your thoughts?
Great question. I don't think anybody should stereotype or shy away from one. If you're focusing on being a head turner in social media, you're typically going to attract people that may not be in this business already, which would be unlicensed. If you're going to be targeting something like you said, putting out an actual ad, targeting people with their life license already, then you're going to be targeting people who have their license. But I like to pull from both avenues. I don't like to stereotype. But one thing that I got better at over the years was at the beginning, I would have phone calls that may last 30 minutes to an hour, even with somebody I knew in the first 4 or 5 minutes that wasn't a good fit. And sometimes just, caring about people or trying to make everything work right. But I think being appropriate of their time and caring about them is being honest with them. And no other recruit calls out there are telling unlicensed people realistic costs and concerns of being in this industry, right? And so if I can save half of them on getting their license, and then the ones who do get their license are outgoing people who are self-motivated and self-driven, that I feel like I'm doing my job at the end of the day. So I want to pull back one point. You mentioned this call being structured around recruiting. I don't think it's right to get into recruiting until you have your why. And my reason behind that is, if you don't have a passion or belief about what you're recruiting to, it's not easy to do that, right? So it's no different than those who on the team are writing the most life insurance, right, are doing well. I guarantee you have passion and belief in final expense and what you're doing, right? So if you didn't believe in final expense, you guys would have a hard time selling it. If you didn't believe in these life insurance products and the clients start calling you up and saying these things never pay out, it's a scam, I promise you nobody would be a top salesman. It's no different with recruiting. You have to ask yourself, like what your why is of wanting to recruit. There's no perfect answer, and there's no perfect time to do it. Some folks like to do it 2 to 3 months into the industry after they've written some deals. Some agents like to wait several years. There's no wrong or right answer, but my perspective is you can recruit to the highest means if you're very passionate and believe in the system you're recruiting to. So I take it a step further. When I started getting better at this, I didn't feel like I was recruiting people away from another IMO or recruiting agents away from to do life insurance. I was empowering others to do what I believe to be true with the best companies that I know out there. And I know that from experience of being with several companies. And I can now tell you, under my last 9 years of doing this and the agents I work with, I feel like I have a good vision of about 100 to 200 IMOs out there and what their model is. So I can passionately be really energetic about, we have the best value proposition. And if you care the most about your people you're talking to, their income, their families, I want to bring them to this. And so everybody has to find their why differently. But to me, you have to find your why before you start recruiting. You can't just be talking about the carries and the commission or the leads, because whatever they come to you for, they will leave you for. And I learned that very quickly. So when I was at the beginning, it was more of like, what carries do you have? Okay, you're with WFG and you're at a 30%. Well, I can get you a 70%, right, in the lead program. And that may be good for temporary, but then agents are taught, well, then if somebody offers higher than that or a cheaper lead, then I should leave them and go with another organization. So what I try to build foundation is in the training, is in the culture, having so many carrier options and products that you're actually doing what's best for your client. I talk to guys where they sell one product, Lincoln Heritage only, Prime America only. Anytime you're fitting all of your clients, no matter their age, into one product, you can't tell me you're doing what's best for them and asking questions. You're replaceable, right? Because you're over cost and you're not put in the right position. So if I'm passionate about the opportunity, then I'm not doing a strong close with these guys, Rob. I'm literally telling them about us. And I say, I believe you would be more for your family if you worked with us, and here's why. And then they tell me if they want to go or not. And a lot of times they're chasing me down for the opportunity.
You know what? I agree 100%. I'm the same way. When I talk to someone and I present the opportunity to them through a Zoom, I don't sit there and kind of try to get them on the hook, right, and set that hook. And it's more like, hey, listen, if I think this is a great opportunity, it's a perfect fit for you, but if it's up to you. You just let me know what you want to do. I'm totally fine with that because I look at it this way. If you have to set the hook on somebody and close them like that, that's just not the right way to start off that relationship. You did also mention the word culture, which I'm huge on. So if anybody's ever listened to me, they know that's a huge thing for me. And the culture that we have built here at Retirement Income Life is one that, I mean, it seems everybody absolutely loves it. And I think that agents overall, once they get a taste for that culture, really the commission, while you have to pay a good commission, it has to be competitive. It has to be, it has to be what's available out there. But that culture is the bonus. And they just love the people, the culture, the way we go about things, the training and so on. And I think that that's what's going to separate somebody. And that's also what's going to keep your agents wanting to stay. So as you're building and you're able to offer those things and create your own culture, which is incredibly important in my mind, that's the kind of stuff that's going to keep them, I guess, supporting you and partnered with you.
I love
So,
it. And what one thing I thought about when you were mentioning that point is it's basically, so you mentioned on what's your why, right? So everybody's why may be different. It's understanding that purpose and empowering others. It's not recruiting people. It's not recruiting agents to make money on them. That's all the byproduct of the aftermath of doing what's better for them. But it's empowering them to know what you know about retirement income life compared to whatever they're at currently. And that more so goes to, I guess, a licensed agent who's already been in the industry, which goes into my next. So unlicensed folks, I ask those two questions, right? And I try to have honest conversations with them about how leads work and costs and investments in your opportunity. For licensed folks, the two questions I ask, and it doesn't matter if they're an agency owner who's doing $5 million currently per year and they're looking to expand more with us, or if they're an agent who sold 2 deals or no deals and they got their license for a few months or whatever, right? My same two questions are, what's been your experience so far using your life license and how has it gone, say the past year or so? And I just listen, right? And then my second is, what could have gone better and what are you looking for? And I take notes on both of those. And my goal isn't to recruit them on comp. It's not to recruit them on leads. That's all, as you use the word, that's all the bonus, right? My goal is to help them with their issues, right? Most groups out there don't have the best of training. Most multi-level marketing groups are oversaturated. I already know those, right? So it's hard to get leads if you're new. It's hard to be given a proper chance. And because people who are recruiting you as your upline haven't really sold before, you're not really put into a great situation out the gate. So I know that in the back of my mind, but I ask those questions to see from their perspective, what's their, I call it ping points, right? So I take notes on those. And then my whole call is based around that. It's a very soft close. It's just educating them on the difference of us and how that could empower them. And letting them know we do have every type of lead programs out there. We do have 100 different carriers independently that you can contract with. We are independent, meaning you're vested day one with full renewals and residuals, which is huge if you're coming from a captive group. But letting them know what they're a part of, right? The more they tap into the calls we do on Tuesday or the calls we do throughout the week and become a part of something, the more they're going to get out of this and the more they can put back into their clients, right? And more. So I try to touch on those things, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, absolutely does. And you know what? You just reminded me again. I remember we had a conversation, I want to say a year, maybe a year and a half ago. And we were talking about recruiting, and you had mentioned that you asked those questions, and I implemented those immediately. Now, they're worded a little bit different, but they're the same questions all in all. And I've noticed that it's really changed the whole approach to when I'm presenting to somebody. I'm hitting the pain points that, I'll ask them straight out, uh, what were the things that you thought could have been better at your previous IMO, and what were the things that you thought were great? Because I want to find out what their pain points are, and almost always it's uh, lack of training is number one on a regular basis, and the other is access to leads. So for whatever reason, their leads might have been 14 years old or whatever. They didn't have access to newer leads, and if that's the case, then I'm hitting on those pain points. So yeah, I wanted to thank you for hitting me with the knowledge that day, because it certainly helped us for sure.
That's awesome. And one thing I thought of when you were saying that too is you want these folks to feel accepted as they come on board and join up with you. But it's not all about the comp. So there may be folks on this call, and I've gotten this call from so many people as they first start to recruit, and they say they're sometimes pigeonholed maybe with their own commission level, right? Well, hey, Myles, I talked to 30 people this month, and a few of them I just couldn't recruit because they're actually at a higher contract level than I'm at. So I go back to those two questions and I say, great, what'd you ask them on the two questions? Well, I asked the two, are you making as much money as you'd like to make right now? Let's be honest, guys. I don't care about their contract level. I do this all day long for the last 9 years, right? There's so many people on different various contracts out there. I've talked to people as low as 25%, and I've talked to people as high as you can go in this industry of, up there. And it doesn't change the fact that they're successful or making money. So whenever it comes down to contract level, I say, are you making as much money as you'd like with that level? Like, what's that level doing for you? And I do it a nicer way than that, or quicker or a slower way. But my point is, I don't feel like I have to have them above my contract level to make this work. If you can show them a way to help more families and feel good about it, you're helping them make more money, which organically through time, Retirement Income Life has a great structure. As you write more business and bring on more agents, you will increase through your guys' commission grid. But sometimes when you talk to somebody who may or may not have gotten a high level somewhere, that doesn't change the fact they're making no money, or they wouldn't respond to the ad, right? They wouldn't take the time to be frantic and looking for elsewhere if they were making the best money they've ever made.
Yeah, what a lot of agents don't understand, especially the newer ones, is when you're at that higher level like that, a lot of times the cost, because there's usually a cost, and that is lack of support, because you're a big boy now, and there's no training wheels on that bike anymore, and you're on your own kind of thing. So when we came over from our other IMO that we were with, we got a bump up from our commission percentage, but I knew that comes with some expectations, and it comes with responsibility, and there is no training wheels, there's no safety net anymore, there's nobody there to catch you. Not that they would have caught me anyway, but when you have that big contract, yeah, you're not getting the support that you would have gotten from 3 other uplines above you on a lower contract. So that's a great point. So what I wanted to touch on this, when I started building in December of 16, I was told to just go out and hire everybody, and this came from the big cheese of the company. Okay. He basically said if they could fog a mirror, you should hire them, because you never know. It might be a stud in the making. Do you believe a new builder should hire that way, or do you think they should look for certain individuals with certain attributes, and if so, what are some of those qualities that they should be looking for?
Great question. You have to trust the person, right? I typically find agents that start recruiting, the guys they bring on tend to have a version of their personality already within them. You tend to connect better with people that already remind you of yourself and have like-minded personalities. So that's already a key thing. And I have the advantage of, within the company, of working with so many of our different groups. If I get an older gentleman who we just don't click and I send it over to an agent who does good with us that's older, they tend to click better, right? So trust and belief is key. But I'll go back to what you said. At the beginning, I thought the same way. And that's really like throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks, right? The best way to build is just throw every agent who wants to join this against the wall and we'll see who sticks. I don't believe in that. I think you understood from me pushing away some unlicensed people not to get their license if they're not good fits. So I don't believe in it from unlicensed and even licensed agents. I'm okay with them deciding not to go with me at the beginning because I promise you, they appreciate that I ask them those questions and that I listen to them. And if they're not in the right, state of mind at the time we're talking, they may circle back around sometime down the road. But I'll take it one step further, Rob. When I bring somebody on, it's bringing a presence to the table of that you're a business owner and everything you do with us is entirely up to you. The trainings you tap into, I'm not going to call you every day saying, are you attending the trainings? I'm not going to call you and say, are you calling your leads this week? Are you calling your leads this week? Because I'm going to have to call you then when you go on your appointment to say, are you actually meeting with people and every step of the way? So those who take those strategies and implement them, if they want to call me 20 times in a day because they're doing it, I love those phone calls, right? Hey, I'm doing what you're asking of me, but I'm stuck here. So what I try to set at the beginning, because it's only natural, is you start to build a team, it's taking on another full-time job to what already is your full-time job, which is helping others and making money and writing business. So you're essentially adding another full-time job to it. What you can't do is bring on anybody and everybody, and then you have so many people to talk to per week that next thing you know, the weeks go by and you're not actually making any money. So I look for key things I ask them to do. I call it call to actions. So what I do is I do a recruit call, which I feel like if they tell me they want to move forward and they're really excited about it, I say, great, do these steps and call me when you've done it. And what that does is set the precedent. They know from that point on, and every time we talk, I'm giving them tasks and I'm asking them to call me once they've done it. It's not for me to set calendar reminders of, hey, I sent out the link to this guy 2 weeks ago. Is he still interested? Guys, we're all too busy for that. The more you track down those people, you may get one over a course of a month to onboard with you, but I promise 3 months down the road, you'll look at how many applications or what he did, and you spent more of your time, which is money, chasing him. So those are things I learned by trial and error, Rob, for doing this for 9 years. And I feel like I didn't truly understand that last thing I told you until about 5 years ago. So I was honest about it.
Yeah, you know what? That part is, I think that it's the same for everybody. I think that's the last thing, or one of the last things to really click for people that are recruiting on a regular basis. I actually, again, we had talked a year and a half, I think it was, or a year. And you had mentioned that exact thing to me, give them, assignments, things that they have to get done. And so what I did, I put a checklist. I did it probably about 5-6 months ago because I was just telling them. And then I said, nah, it's got to be something more substantial. And so I put it on my website. I created just a page on our agent website, recruiting website, and it's a new agent checklist. And so they have to go down that checklist. They have to sign up for the Facebook thing. They have to sign up for our LinkedIn page. They have to, do certain things. And then at the bottom, it has, our call schedule and whatnot. So that is also something that has been a huge help. It really has. So again, I got to thank you. You're the one that gave me the idea.
One thing I recommend everybody write down as you recruit, that's probably the thing that changed my view in this business the most, is you can never want their income or their success more for that downline agent than they want it for themselves. And that's something that Mike Basalia gave to me, along with 90% of the agents that are using up most of your time do 10% of the production, which is another true fact. And that's why the call to action. And but that one right there really stuck with me and it resonated, right? Because there was so much of my time, like when you start to onboard and grow your numbers and number of agents you're working with, there's only so much time in a day. And so trying to have that belief of, like, when I'm talking to a new agent and recruiting them to this, if I'm more interested in getting them paid on their first deal than they seem to be, that's not a good sign, right? So that's another thing I'm kind of looking for, is I try to give them the best call to actions and the best, I call it, roadmap to success to start with us, right? And if I onboard 10 in a week, 2 or 3 may be calling me and the other 7 don't. And you know what's awesome is one of those 7 a year later or 6 months later hit me up, and then all of a sudden it's just right. It's the right timing for them, right? But you can't be chasing everybody. There's only so much time in a day, right? So call to action, and then if I'm working with those 2 or 3, I just fixate on, am I the one constantly trying to get you paid on your first, because I know that'll make it stick, right? I mean, people that are new to the business, if they get their first commission paycheck on a 30-minute appointment, or if they make 5 sales in the week their first time they've ever done it, that'll make it stick. But am I the one that's pushing and the biggest proponent for your paycheck, or are you? And when somebody told me that, and I started really thinking about that on every phone call I was on with new recruits, that's really what resonated with me and helped stick.
Yeah, we talk about that often, is how as leaders, especially when we're newer, we seem to want it more for them than they want it for them. And over the years, that's just not me anymore. I'm going to give them everything I got. But at the same time, time is not a renewable resource, and it's our most valuable resource, far more valuable than money could ever be, because once you use it, it's gone. But at the same time, while you want somebody, you think they could do great, you have to recognize what's really going on and not chase them. If you're going to chase them, you're going to end up wasting valuable time. And eventually, if it's something that they really want, they'll come back. If it's somebody that you're recruiting, if it's an agent, you just dumping into somebody that just doesn't want it as bad as you do, it's not going to help you. You just kind of have to know the limits of that person. Ken Bond had a mentor, and that man used to say, well, a tree's a tree and a bush is a bush. So in other words, you got some high performers, some studs that are trees, right? They're big, beautiful oaks. But then you have just everybody else, and they're basically just bushes. They're all over the place. And you can't make a bush a tree. It's going to be what it is. And there is a lot of truth to that as well.
Yeah, I in my mind, that goes back to identifying the right personality type. Because as I say things, and you hear on this call saying, don't chase people and be realistic about the opportunity and only work with people you trust and don't stick a bunch of stuff against the wall, I'm also never stereotyping. People surprise me every day. There's people I've talked with that end up becoming some of our top producers. I'll tell you on that first initial recruit call, if I jump to our minds naturally do it. I don't mean to do it, but our minds naturally jump to, is this guy a good candidate, or is this guy really, and he'll surprise you, right? So I never try to judge people that way. On the same note, I feel like if they've got their license and started with another organization that's a multi-level marketing group, they've never been given their true shot to be a tree. So now, if you've been in the industry, and I have a lot of these calls, and you guys, we can laugh about some of them, but if you've been in the industry 20 years and never made a sale, and you've been with 15 outfits, probably there's a flaw within that person, right? But if they've been in the business 3 months or 2 years and with an MLM group and they haven't got the proper training, sometimes that bush does become a tree. So I don't ever stereotype.
Yeah, I actually look for those people right there that you were just talking about. Somebody who's just hasn't had the success, and they've been in the industry for 3 or 4 months, or maybe even a year. Once you dig in a little bit, you find why they haven't been successful. And in many cases, it's the leadership. It's the training and the leadership is what it comes down to. We have one of our agents that he came over from an IMO, I don't know, about 8-9 months ago, and was in the business for almost a year, I think it was, and really hasn't done much. Comes here, doing it part-time, starts having some really good success, ends up going full-time, and I believe he's number 3 on our team at this point. So wow. I don't got his name out, but yeah, I look for that type of person. And we have other people that have been in the industry for 3-4 months, and they just didn't connect with the right IMO or the right carrier that fits them. I don't consider them bushes nor trees, but like you said, somebody who's been doing this a long time or for a period of time, had all the opportunity and just is what they are. They're not out there working. They're not, there's no activity. To me, that person's just going to be what they are until something might click, which is
Yeah.
difficult. Sometimes it just takes maturity. So let me ask you, Myles, what does your hiring process look like when you're talking to somebody or when you're bringing somebody on? Do you have a process? I would imagine you do. And what does that look like? And what would you say a new builder should include in their process?
Okay. I do have a process, guys. I have a process on the notes I take until they get into the CRM where I can transfer those notes so that I can remember important things to them, right? Their family situation, how many kids they have, what else they do outside of life insurance that they are passionate about. So, I talk to a lot of people, so I take good notes on everything they tell me at the beginning. If they'd like to move forward, I send them some follow-up of more about our company. If you guys went to conference, that video that was shot about the system that's coming is something I've added to it. An FTX Toolkit, webinar. I mentioned these things on the initial call, but as follow-up, things that separate us that I feel like is impactful to an agent already in this industry, those are things I send them. If they're unlicensed, I have a totally different setup of things I send them. I send them an email how to get their license on a discount, what realistic costs are associated, and then I'm here every step of the way as they start to do that to explain and answer questions for them. But I have two different avenues, and I've trained other what we call production consultants here at the office on recruiting. And one of the things that's interesting when we recruit new production consultants is they think recruiting is how many links you send out in a week, right? Like, oh, I talked to 20 agents and I sent out 10 links. They feel good about that. And I always say it's just like who actually bought, right? It's like saying I went on 10 appointments, but at the end of the month, how many of those people of the agents signed up and were excited enough to actually get contracted with us, right? That's a win. So at this point, my numbers are above 90-something%. Normally it's if I send out a link, the guy's passionate enough about it to do it. And if he's not, like I told you, it normally somehow circles back to me, I feel like in the 3 months to a year span after that. So my advice to people is when you're first learning to work with retirement income life, to be on every call, even calls you don't feel like are important to you, because if you're going to recruit to an entity, you have to feel every single wall of that entity. You have to feel like you've worked every lead program they offer, you've been on every calls they offer, because if you're passionate about retirement income life and what you're bringing them to, then your recruiting job is that much easier. And then once you do that, try to have short but sweet calls with people until they prove they deserve your time, and not to be a jerk with that. But I feel like people do respect you more if you're not giving them everything when they've given you nothing. So I try to hit on those pain points on the two questions and be respectful of their time. And then if they go and watch the videos and follow-ups I have, and they send me texts and emails back of like, I love that and I want to sign up, then I'll send them more and give them another task. But sometimes at the beginning I did too, I would do an hour-long Zoom with everybody. And I'm like, man, 50 minutes of that could have been cut out if that guy's not a good fit or not wanting to really do this. So you'll feel when they're answering your questions with vigor and they're kind of engaged. That's all I can say. So for your hiring process, I would have follow-up links and emails ready to go. And I would leverage that as something for them to do, and then get back to you if they like what they watch and if they're ready to move forward. So whatever those links and videos for, you guys have more advantages than I do, honestly, with being part of something with the trainings you guys have, Retirement Income Life.
Yeah, you know what, Jan, she thinks a lot like you when it comes to that. She has, ready emails that are preset, just fills in the name, basically, and maybe a couple of little things. And then as soon as somebody's coming on board, it's basically a welcome email with a lot of information in it that she'll send out to each new agent. So, and that has been very effective. So I think that's a great tip that you just gave all these people. So what I want to do is, Myles, if you have any, you have a little bit of time, if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So guys, if you have any questions for Myles, go ahead and unmute and or me, whatever, and fire away.
And while we're waiting for that, Rob, too, I want to let you know, I'm excited when we get the first wave of people that start doing their first recruiting. And if people want to ask questions on how situations turned out and take notes on it, I'm very good at that too. I've done that for a long time. I feel like until you've come across every situation you're going to get stumped and have questions. And these, just like appointments you go on, are all going to be experiences, right? You know, sometimes people make recruiting a lot bigger than it is, and they put it on hold. They just don't do it. I feel like even if you're new to recruiting, you should try it if you want to, and if you want to help others have the best for their lives and empower others and use that mindset. It's all practice, right? You're not going to, mess anything up that can't be fixed, right? But the only way you get better at this is just to start recruiting. I don't think if I didn't go through the first year of what I learned, I would be decent at recruiting at this point, honestly. So you can't just keep putting it off and learning it through videos. Videos like this help, but trying it and then talking to your upline you feel comfortable with and running through what they said, you said, and kind of how that went is how you get better.
That's something we had mentioned, or we had talked last week a little bit about, was the importance of having your upline or leadership, whatever you want to call them, or partner, involved in your building. I've always had a rule, and this is something I grabbed from years past, is you always want to have two sets of eyeballs on somebody. And the reason is because I might talk to somebody and miss something, right? And that thing I might miss might be something great. And that might make this person special. And maybe that person could be super successful, but I missed it. Meanwhile, Jan will interview him and say, "No, Rob, did you see this? Did you know this?" And oh, okay, yeah, you know what? That makes sense. So I think that having two sets of eyes on everybody, whether it's you and your upline, or you and your partner, whatever it might be, personally, I think it's important. I think it's very critical.
Absolutely agree.
So anybody have any questions? You want to unmute?
Don't be shy. *6, unmute, call in.
Let me see.
I got something.
This is Roderick, right?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yep, go ahead, man.
Yeah, how you doing, Myles?
How you going, Roderick?
I'm good, man. I got a scenario that happened the other day, and I guess I ended with a question. So the other day I was out in the neighborhood putting cards on doors, and I had someone call me back, which was another agent or whatever, and we talked, and they mentioned that they was with a particular carrier, and and I know that the carriers that that I have, if I were to go behind her, I know that I probably could replace the policy or whatever. But how would you go about, I guess, trying to recruit that individual, knowing that the company that they are with probably don't stand up to, I guess, your company?
Well, sure. And first of all, you got to think about why the two of you are talking. You can't just skip pleasantries and things and just skip to, here's what I know and here's the carriers I have and comp rates and things. To me, that's all icing on the cake, bonus, whatever you want to call it. One other thing Mike saw engraved on me that I always thought was special was, you can't take your commission rate and go out to dinner, and then when the check comes, put your comp rate on there, right? That doesn't matter. So I would just say to that person, "Oh, I'm excited you got my card. How long have you been doing this?" And ask them questions, and just let them know that you're happy with what you're doing. And through your happiness, and it may not be on the first call with that person, they're gonna naturally want to open up a little bit more, whether they do to you about, "Oh, here's you said the company they work with," or whatever it is. So you can just say, "Yeah, I've heard some things with that. I'm independent and I work with a group that has every carrier you can imagine. So we can shop based on our clients' wants, needs, and budget. And I'm my own boss and I'm doing pretty well over here, but I'm glad you're doing well too. And if things change, you can always, I can tell you more about where I'm at and if it'd be a good fit for you." However, you can make that sound natural in your own vocabulary.
That's good. Yeah, I like that. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Roderick, that's
What do you
actually
think,
really
Rob?
good. That's really a good question. Hang on one second.
Yeah. Hopefully you don't hear a lot of echoing. I just want to say something to Roderick. Oh, forget, I can't talk. Yeah, I was just gonna say, Roderick, anyone on our team that finds someone that they think might be interested, in the opportunity, if you get stuck, what we've always done in the past was that all you have to say is, here's my card, or get their phone number and say, can I have my manager give you a call to talk to you? So you're kind of taking it off you. You can call me whatever you want, manager, leader, one of the partners in our company. Can I have someone give you a call? And then just put it on me, and then we can do a three-way, and then you can hear how I do my first call. Okay?
Okay, that sounds
We'll
good.
talk about that. Okay? All right, bye.
All right.
I think to me, I've done that a lot too. It's getting that conversation off the ground without being. You have to be tactful of how you go about it, right? So easy ones I've done before is, oh man, I've been in the business this many years. How long have you been? And is your company generating as much leads as you'd like each week or something? Because, just things like that get them to open up. Are you getting in front of as many clients as you'd like? Are you making as much money as you'd like? And not be cheesy about it. If they don't really tell you too much, then don't push any further. That's my opinion on it.
Okay.
Rob, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, there we go. That's a great question, Roderick. Hope you're able to get the answer that you're looking for sure. We had some technical difficulties over here. So Myles, I missed half of your answer on that, but I won't ask you to repeat it. I'll have the recording anyway that I can go back and listen to on that. So who else has a question for the Myles Lamoree? Let me see who else is on this.
What's up, Myles?
Taiwan. What's up, Taiwan?
How you doing, man? Hey, so you was talking about like you have a few agents out the bunch that last and stick, and then you have some of them that don't stick. So at what point, like when you're building or you notice, at what point do you notice that it's not going to work out with an agent?
It can be at different times all the time, I could tell you. That's why I call it call to action that I do on my recruit call. And then the next step is to fill out the contracting call, right? And then to either get on a lead program or how you envision making money. But I'm always giving them a call to action, explaining what successful agents are doing typically, and then call me when they have questions. And the good ones typically they have certain things they do. They're calling me a lot with questions and doing what I say. That's where I know I'm working with somebody that's trying to make this work. But I feel like as long as I do the best I can, Taiwan, like on those phone calls to give them the best opportunity to do so, I don't feel cheated or bad when they're not calling me, right? Like I've literally had one from 3 years ago call me a month ago. And then it's like, hey, I went through some things with my family and now I'm in a place where I want to make money and things are right now. So just not stereotype people, but they'll tell you, the question I always have in the back of my mind is, do I want their success typically more than they do? Like when I'm calling them up, is it like they're only, starting to do the things I'm asking them because I'm calling them? Or do they have that drive to make money for their own reasons or help people for their own reasons? I always say the money is an aftermath of doing the right things with your clients, right? So if you're passionate about helping people and that these products are right for people and you would put your own, parent or grandparent into a final expense policy, that's what I'm looking for. But I let them tell me, and the way they tell me sometimes just by me not getting a phone call back or them not completing a link.
Yeah, great question, Taiwan. Who else do we got? Who else wants to ask a question of the Myles Lamoree? Who else do we got cooking? Let's see.
I got one more, Myles.
Perfect. I love it.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yep, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm driving. Yeah,
We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a bad area, but so when building, do you take every agent and like, would you have them directly to you, or is it a certain amount of agents you would have like okay, I'm having this many direct to me, and then I'm going to, well, this can go to you or Rob, and then I will start assigning agents to my downlines.
I love that question.
That is-
So for me personally, I'm a company man. So even though I'm licensed, no agent in the company's you'll never see my name above you in the hierarchy, right? It's all who works with Heartland, and that's how, we all win as a company, and we make a little on a lot, and you guys make the lion's share, which is how it should be. If you though, personally, and I do this with folks too, as I run recruiting ads, I'm very big into personality types and who I feel like will give this person the best opportunity to succeed. Rob Appel can tell you, I personally have sent people over the years his way because when talking with them, there's things that they say that remind me of his personality. And I know people looking for training and looking for certain things to plug into. Now, I think a reward factor for agents on your downliner teams that are producing, because first and foremost, guys, the most impactful thing you can tell these people is don't just do as I say, but do as I do. And the easiest way to recruit people is to show them your paycheck last month, last year, and so on, and say, I know this is real, right? A lot of these other groups aren't saying that. These guys are recruiting them who have barely produced or haven't produced and don't really know what they're a part of, right? So, and I know I explained it a little bit over the top, but my point goes back to, it's up to you, the agent, the manager, but if I have somebody on my team who's hitting certain goals for me and is wanting to recruit, which is really, let's be honest, guys, it's another full-time job on top of personally producing that'll pay you very little for the first several months to year you do it, but then the long run will pay you a lot. But all of that is the aftermath of caring about these people and helping them from being with our competition where the leads aren't what they say they are, the training isn't as good as ours, and the carriers aren't as many options as ours. We beat them on so many levels that these agents can make more for their families, their wives, their children. So I wouldn't be doing my job to empower them to come over to me. So if I get people coming over and maybe one's in a different state where I have an agent who's doing enough production where I feel confident to plug them into it, then you can make that decision. That's your choice.
Yeah, Taiwan, I agree with everything Myles just said. I will add that when I'm bringing on agents, I'm at the point where my intention is that they're going to go direct to somebody else at this point, because there's some people that will think that you want to have as many direct to you as possible, but there is a risk and a reward to that. And quite frankly, for the first year or two, the risk is huge. Because the average agent that does come in, write some business over 6 months, and then it just doesn't work out, and they're leaving the industry for that matter, you're going to get a minimum roll up of debt if they don't handle it. And that's probably going to be $1,000 minimum is what you could probably count on. So going very wide like that and having 10, 15 people direct to you, I would kind of shy away from that if possible. And really focus on putting the studs direct to you until you get 5. And then after that, any studs that come along, if you don't want them direct to you and you have a stud that's direct to you, you want to help them out and you want to reward them for being who they are and as supportive as they are in being your partner, then put them direct to them. But you need to be choosy in the beginning on who goes direct to you. You have Roderick, and anybody will tell you Roderick's a stud. He just is. And that's the guy that you're going to look to build. But at the same time, you have to be looking for those studs for you because they got to go direct to you too. But I would go about 5 wide, 6 wide, something like that. That's just my thought. You can go as wide as you want, but the wider you go, the riskier it gets.
Okay.
Great points. Anybody else have any questions or comments? And Rob, I'd love to do some follow-up, whether it be a month or two from now or down the road when folks are starting to get into that recruiting field and wants to get more technical and hands-on with it. I'm good with that. And to your point, what people don't tell you when you get into recruiting is if you're the ultimate upline, that's why I use the word trust quite a bit. And that's why I like to work with people that are similar personalities to me and are kind of following what I'm talking about. But one thing I will tell you is if you're recruiting and they have vectors in all these carriers, there's a sign. Why did they make bad choices with their previous group that they're going to be different when they come on board with you, right? And sometimes people surprise me and there is reasons, but a lot of times, if they weren't good at checking on their debt, the carriers notify you so many times. You can make payment arrangements and be on top of stuff, right? But I always ask people how it come about. Sometimes agents were plugged into being managers too soon than they should have, and they have this large debt that's not off their own pen, right? And we verify that. Then maybe I'm willing to give that guy another chance if he pays off all his vectors now. But if I'm talking to a guy where it's off his own personal production and he's been doing this for years and he keeps racking up debt, that's a scary thing. And so that's where I say trust. You have the final say so of who you send out the link to and who goes to you. So to touch on what Rob said, I wouldn't recommend being scare tactics, but I would recommend working with people. It doesn't matter how much they produce that you trust and you want to work with. I definitely recommend that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that was a great question, though. It really was. Anybody else have any other questions? Come on, guys. One more. Any other questions? If not, we're gonna let I think it's about. Is it your quitting time?
No quitting time for me. I wouldn't mind catching some of that March Madness going on tonight, though.
Oh, I got you. I'm with you. I'm with you. It is madness this year. I mean, wow. My bracket is just broken, destroyed. I gave up even looking at it, quite honestly. It was pretty bad. All right, last call. Any questions for Myles? Otherwise, we're gonna let him go and end this part 2 of the Builders Workshop. Janet says, thank you very much for jumping on with us, Myles. And obviously for me too, we really do appreciate you taking an hour plus of your time. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank both of you for putting this together. And like I said, I think this is the most efficient use of everyone's time is to be on a group training call like this. So I would just love to do one down the road, like I said, where they put out their first wave of ads to do recruiting calls, or they start posting things on their social media to let them know they're happy where they're at and that they're, just basically anything that's a head turner to get people to want to talk to you. That's all it is conversations, right? So I'm happy to help in any way I can for you guys. And I met a lot of you guys at conference. I know this last year has been kind of hectic with me, but you're going to start seeing me a lot more of the trainings that Retirement Income Life puts on. So I'm always happy to help.
Are you coming down in May?
That's on the bucket list. So I'm going to make that work.
Let's make it happen.
I'm going to be in Missouri next week at the home office, dealing with contracting and some other issues. But cool. I absolutely want to make sure. That's in Orlando, right?
Yep, absolutely. May 4th.
Yeah. Trainings are important to me, guys. And I always say the fruit is in the follow-up, right? So the fortune's in the follow-up, the fruit's in the follow-up. So being on something like this is good, but if you're just being on to be on calls throughout the week and you're not actually using anything you learn from it, it's not really, it goes by the wayside. So whatever I can do to be a soundboard with Rob when you guys are actually recruiting, that's what I'm all about. And there's no scenario you come across that I haven't come across, I promise you.
Yep. The best knowledge is applied knowledge. And you did give me just a great idea. We'll probably end up doing an advanced builders workshop in a few months to see and get feedback from agents on how they've been progressing, what they've tried, what worked, what didn't work. I think that's a great idea, and we'll implement something like that for sure. Maybe not a 6-part series, but just a follow-up to revisit it. I think that's an awesome idea. So, but
I love it.
Awesome. Myles, listen, have a great night. Go watch some March Madness. Guys, have a great night. Thank you for jumping on and investing in yourself. And we will see you on tomorrow's call with Lester and Matt at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate you, Myles.
You appreciate your Myles and Rob.
Thank y'all.